Hi all. Today we'll learn how to create a drop down in Excel. Right now, drop downs are used when you for the attributes which have got standard values. Right. So now, if to give you an example, within a team, let's say I want to create a spreadsheet to list down all the employees that are present, their grade, their experience, and their rating. What I also want to do is, instead of asking them each one of them and then putting in my spreadsheet, I want to put this spreadsheet in a common location where each one of them can update. Now for this to happen, what I'll do is, so that people enter data consistently and only from the selected values that I've given them, I'll create a drop down list. So drop down list will restrict the values of the cell to permissible values. It will prevent errors, user errors from occurring. It will prevent any abbreviations a user might do, right? So a longer term might be shortened to something else by a user. That would be also prevented. So I'll get the values in the way I want it. So I'll restrict. So that's called drop. And the way we'll do is a drop down. Today in this session, we'll see three ways of creating a drop down list, right? And then my preferred way of doing it, I'll tell you which one it is, right? So first way is wherein you list down all the possible values. So for example, over here I've got employee table, wherein if you look at standard columns or standard attributes, grade and rating are something that would be a standard set of values within an organization, right? I've created the list of possible grades over here, so that is engineer, team lead, manager, senior manager, etc. And similarly rating. Now I'll create a drop down list over here for grade, right? So essentially it should be one of, over here in this cell, people should be able to enter one of these values, right? Engineer, team lead, manager, or senior manager. So what do? I go to data at the top, then go to data validation, then you select list, then you click on this button, then you select the range of cells which are the possible set of values, right? Then you click again and say OK. Now if you see, a button has appeared over here. What it shows is, for this cell, it's a drop down button and it lets you select one of the values which were present on the list over here. Yeah, so engineer, team lead. What happens if I try to enter some other value? Let us say senior tester. It gives me an error. So a user has restricted values that can be entered into this cell. Yeah, so cancel it. Let's select one of the values, right? So this is, we have done via way one, first method of doing creating a drop down. Second cell, we'll use another way of creating a drop down. What we do is very simple. You go select the cell where you want to put the drop down, go again onto data and then data validation, select allow list, and then come into source. Instead of clicking this button, the change we'll do is we'll type it engineer, comma team lead, comma manager, comma senior manager. Yeah, and say OK. If you see, drop down has appeared again. You select it, you can enter it, right? So the difference between the first one is your reference data is visible and you update, let us say team lead, tomorrow it becomes team technology lead. Yeah, so you can update over here, it becomes visible, and then you can select from here. Yeah, in the second method, the value has got drop downs, but it is not visible to the people who are entering on the sheet anywhere, right? Or even for the people who are maintaining this sheet later on, and it is more from maintenance perspective, right? So people can only see by clicking the drop down and not as a reference data. Now there is another way, third way of creating a drop down list, right? This third way is by defining something called name within XLS, right? And why do we do that? I'll come to it. Now what happens is, in the first way where we created this list, right, if you go to if you copy this, or let's quickly create it. We'll go to the sheet 2. Yeah, we have got this list, right? Now if I try to, what happens is, when we are using reference data, there could be big tables which we are managing within any work setup, right? And there could be a lot of such fields where you are using reference data. So it is always advisable to have all these reference data in a separate tab of the Excel sheet, right? So over here I've created one references tab which I have put all the reference field and their possible options. Now however, when I try to yeah, so if you can see that, however, when I try to go to sheet 1 and create a data validation, right, through first way, but when the data is present on the second tab, it does not allow me. It gives me an error, right? You just heard beeps. So it does not work that way. So first method does not work when the list is present on a second tab. So what do we do? What we do is the third method, and this is my preferred method. It is by creating something called name in XLS, right, through a name manager. So we'll just quit this, cancel. We go to the references. Now we'll go to something called formulas over here at the top. Sorry, not formula. Where did name manager go? Yeah, formulas. Yeah, so formulas at the top. Name manager. Click on the name manager. I had already created it. I'll delete this first. Yeah. So this window will open up. Name manager. We'll click new, and it will let you select name of this. So let us say designation hyphen grade. The scope of this name would be the entire workbook so that you are able to use it elsewhere. Then what it refers to is the possible values, right? What is the possible values? So I'll select all this, right? And then okay. Okay, so essentially you cannot use a special character. I'll say designation, let us say. Okay. Okay. So a designation is created which has got engineer these various profiles which are present within grade. Okay, I'll close this off. Now you go to sheet 1, and then what you do is again same thing. Go to data. You have selected a cell where you want to create the drop down. You go to data, data validation. Same thing, list. The only change is in source you say is equal to that name which you have entered, that is designation, and click OK. Now you have got this drop down. Yeah, so you can select and use the values. So those are the three ways to create drop downs. I like the third way the best, so that we keep the data present in a separate sheet and we are able to use names and then create drop down list. It helps in maintenance later on as well, wherein you can update any of these fields and then your drop downs will be refreshed automatically. Yeah, thank you for watching it. Do like this video and subscribe to the channel.